Welcome to What's the Big Idea with Bo Wills. Join Bo as he interviews candidates for the Walton County Board of Commissioners 2024 election. We'll cover races in Districts 1, 3, and 5. In District 1, incumbent William Boots McCormick is up against Dan Curry and Trey Nick.
District 3 sees Brad Drake facing Chuck Wilder in the primary, with the winner going up against independent Sean Roll.
District 5 has Tony Anderson competing with Barbara Morano, Dr. Edmonds Loda, and Democrat Michael Miller.
Hey, what's up, folks? This is Bo Wills. Thanks for joining me for another episode in my series, Candidate Conversations. This is What's the Big Idea with Dr. Edmonds Loda.
Hotel business.
Right.
And
so,
for whatever reason, that found you over in America.
So actually, we had to do a hunger strike to get out of Romania. So
Really?
My mom was working for the embassy, an American ambassador. And so somehow we managed to get a German visa, and that's how we ended up gravitating towards Austria. Yeah.
Wow.
So we did, I was a kid, and
How
all of
old
us.
about were you?
13, 12,
When you
13.
moved to Austria?
12, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Did you
so-
like Austria? Did you like living there?
Oh man, Austria was beautiful. Yeah, that was fantastic. You know, the hotel that they put us up in, they had first we were in a former jail because they quarantined you for 90 days. So that was kind of odd, you know, being behind bars as a kid.
Wow.
For 90 days. But after that, they put us up in a nice hotel, and they had a St. Bernard, and I just remember, you know, just how beautiful
What a
Austria was.
contrast. They put you in
Yeah.
jail for 90 days
90
and then
days.
they put you in a hotel.
Yeah.
Was it a jail? Were you
Jail,
behind bars in a
yeah,
cage?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Talk about a tough immigration
But
policy.
the whole family was in a large cell, so, you know, it's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
What an experience.
Yeah,
So how long did you live in Austria?
a year.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the U.S. gave us a visa, so we came to the United States.
And where did you land in the United States?
Cleveland, and Cleveland was drug riddled at the time, so we packed up pretty quickly, and not that we had a car or money or other than a few clothes. Some friends that we knew from Austria, they helped us get down to St. Pete, Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how we ended up in Florida.
And did you grow up in Florida beyond that? I mean, in St. Pete beyond
Pretty
that?
much until I went and I got my bachelor's up at Life simultaneously, and when I got my chiropractic degree there, that's when so I went to school. But up until that point, yeah, I went to school in Florida. I went to the junior college in St. Pete and everything.
And so after you graduate, you're a chiropractor.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you open up your first practice?
So Dothan, Alabama. I worked in Dothan. I opened up in Daleville, and that's how I would just kind of come down on the weekends. Mm-hmm. And then I said, well, everyone loves Walton County, so.
Why Dothan? That seems like such an...
Well, it's the closest point to Florida, and I didn't have a Florida license because to practice in Florida, you had to do another residency. So it's a separate residency. So I had to do a residency. So I worked Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and Tuesday, Thursdays, Saturdays. I was working in an office, and so you have to kind of do some more interning.
Working on your residency so you could get your Florida license. You're licensed in Florida now?
I am now.
I see.
Yeah.
Do you have a practice here? Do you?
No. So about 5 months ago, I took a break 15 years ago, just because, sometimes you just recognize, I need to do something. So I wrote a book back then. So I spent about a year off. And then recently, about 6 months ago, I felt, get a little cluster. You get that cluster feeling in an office. So I said, you know what, I need to take another year off. So that's kind of how I try to honor and respect, I meditate, pray, and I try to honor and respect those that the internal direction, yes, right. The guidance, yeah.
And you wrote a book.
Yep.
What was
so in essence, nutrition and holistic medicine, things like that. Like vitamin C. I wrote a whole chapter on vitamin C. People don't know that. Vitamin C is not ascorbic acid, the crap you buy at a GNC. That's not vitamin C. Vitamin C is this huge, beautiful molecule that's got a lot of, many bioflavonoids and rutin and all these other factors, and the benefits of it versus just taking ascorbic acid. So, yeah. So there are a whole lot of chapters on different topics.
And you still have your practice in Dothan?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
No. I was in Santa Rosa right here on 30A. I was on a contract last. Yeah, so it wasn't my practice. I just worked in someone else's practice. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, right across from Restore, there's a medical and chiropractic. I've always worked in a multidisciplinary practice. Even when I had my practices, they had stem cells and medical doctor chiropractic combinations. Yeah.
And so when did you move to Walton County?
Originally not. So I bought my house in Seagrove back in 96 or 97.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been in Inlet Beach 25 years.
I see.
Yeah.
Full time and.
Yep. Well, I still worked in different places, but
this is
that's
where you
been
call
my home.
home.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been around for a minute, watching the area develop, and obviously we've seen crazy growth. And what made you want to throw your hat into the ring to?
Well, the first thing was there were several things. Obviously, the customary use of the beaches, that kind of really upset me. I mean, the beaches have been in the public domain for so long, and here we are, with a little signature. All of a sudden, they're privatized, and people, they get ushered off these beaches. So that upset me. That was bothersome. Also, I noticed that even trying to find employees, just the job market, kids having to move out of Walton County because there's not much of much here. So creating
let's take these kind of one at a time. And customary use is such a obscure topic. I mean, I don't even think it's worth talking about it.
Yeah. Well, it's worth talking about because there are things we can do collectively if we can get on the same page. Wow. So there are things we can do. I think that I think some of the commissioners and their take on it, I don't think it's correct. I think there are things. I mean, if those rights can be eroded with one little, House bill, then why can't that be reinstated with a House bill? So it's just creating enough pressure, enough demand, enough momentum. I think things can change. Absolutely.
Well, to play devil's advocate a little bit, you've got private property owners who claim they have property rights in their ownership. What do you think that language that would be a House bill sounds like to satisfy?
I think really, in essence, a reversal of what was already established, which so again, I am pro property rights, and I'll take an extreme to this. I have a property. If my sewer runs, it's on my property. I just let it run rampant. Okay, I have, again, that's an extreme case, and my sewer runs up on somebody else's, my neighbor's properties, and so forth, and it affects their health and well-being. Their, E. coli, whatever, they walk barefoot. So obviously, I have to be a good steward of my property. So in a case like this, we have to do what's best for the collective, right? I mean, we can't just look out for ourselves because we affect everything else. So if those beaches have been in a public domain, for eons, we've established that. There are pictures that go way back showing people walking up and down those beaches as far back as we have photography. So if that's been in that public domain for that long, just like, for example, I'll give you another example. My house, when I built my house and I added on to my house back in, 20 years ago, the survey did not reflect the easement that was there. So I built on that easement, and so the county, because I built on that easement, they could not take that property away from me. So, after 7 years, I guess that becomes customary, my property, even though I'm on an easement. So similarly here, if those have been in a public domain for that extended period of time, how is that different? If that's been customary, how is that different? Just like they respect, my rights as a property owner. So again, I'm extremely pro property and what owners want to do with their properties, as long as it doesn't affect the collective. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And to be honest with you, like I said, I'm not even sure how we got to this point. It seemed like the system was working pretty well when people could find, a patch of beach that they could, respectfully use. I don't know why this. I'd like to talk about that with people who are a little more, educated to the specific situation. Why did HB 631 even come into existence?
Well, I think we've established that, as one property owner that, but anyways, we don't want to get on that topic because it's been beaten to death, but I think there are things we can do. And I think that, again, it has to be for the collective. Those beaches have been in the public domain forever.
I think that's pretty
They
obvious.
belong in the public.
And, what does it do to Walton County's tourism economy if it really becomes an issue?
Kids, the children, they used to be able to run through other people's properties and go surf and stuff. Now it's so privatized, and it's created code issue and sheriff's department issue and trespassing issues.
Right.
And
well, assuming that House Bill 631 couldn't be reversed is like you suggest is one solution.
I'm sure there are other ways. There are other ways to tackle this.
How do you feel about Walton County buying beach property?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, it has to.
You would be an advocate for that?
Yeah, anything that serves the collective. It's got to serve, the population, the residents. So anything that serves, one suggestion that someone made was even buying them the properties as they come available on the market individually, and then surveying out that part of the property, and then reselling the house itself, probably for a similar or even higher value within a time frame. Yeah, so even if it's one at a time, establishing that and having some direction for the county, it would be great, instead of just blah.
Well, you mentioned employment in Walton County, and as a business owner, you've felt the struggle of finding people to work and help.
Well, not only that, but kids. My kids' friends and things. They can't gravitate here because there are no decent paying jobs. So just spurring something, bringing something. Not necessarily industry that pollutes, but bringing some kind of jobs. Tech, healthcare, something. And so there are some initiatives that we can take to create those jobs. Yeah.
What are those initiatives?
Well, first of all, start with helping the businesses that are already established. There can be some formats to help them develop their businesses. There are classes that we can do as a county to help those small businesses expand and grow and thrive. That's number one. The second thing we can do is, and I'm a big fan of this because I helped another city a fellow that got hired in Dothan, and I just had a lot of meetings with him just to understand what he was going to do differently, because I was interested in anything that can help the community. So one of the things that they do is they apply for example, the grant program. Here it's very minimal, where the grant money can obviously help with infrastructure and things like that. So we have very little bit of effort in the grant program application process, getting those state and federal funds. So, that's big money that we can use to divert some of this traffic and create infrastructure and sewer and water and different things. And that's big money that can bring better paying jobs in Walton County. So that's another factor. And also, for example, every county commission has an aide. We can devote a certain amount of that time to try to recruit businesses in Walton County. That aid can be utilized, or we can as a county, we can even hire a couple people to try to bring businesses into IT and different things into Walton County, because Walton County is beautiful. People want to live here. Beautiful beaches, beautiful weather, climate, access to airports, everything. Yeah. Are you familiar with the organization, the Economic Development Alliance of Walton County, the EDA? Any experience there? Have you participated in any of those meetings? Or No.
Yeah, I know that they take on that mission to recruit industry. Do you have an example of a particular business or industry type that you think would be?
Healthcare for sure. IT. Those that are they're not pollutants, and they help the community as a whole. So things like that, I imagine, would be really good. There are probably other industries, and that's where I like research. I want to see what the research shows, and same thing with development. I want to base how we move forward on research. If they're saying that the walking communities are the ones that we should build, then we should focus on that, and we should create incentives for those walkable communities. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you ever held a political office?
No. I've been, up until recently, I practiced, I coached soccer, I'm a reserve police officer, and probably most importantly, I've been a very involved father. So I didn't want anything to do with politics, other than I did help, for example, one of the things that kind of created, I guess, a desire to serve. Several years ago, I was driving through Georgia, and I stopped through Blakely, and at a gas station, and some kids were trying to bum cigarettes or something off me, and I thought, what are you guys doing? Here in the middle of the day, bumming cigarettes. Why aren't you guys in school? And basically, what I just chatted with them for a few minutes, and in essence, they felt like there was nothing there for them in school. There was no incentives for them, no after-school programs that supported them to do something. And so I created this whole elaborate program that I brought to the mayor in Blakely, and for him to instill in the community, where they, in conjunction with churches, and they have plenty of land. Also, I didn't know this because it seems like a very poor city, but the city actually has a lot of real estate from donations and from, I guess, people not paying taxes and things. So created this elaborate program where we got some of the local builders to help create these after-school programs for kids where they can stay involved, where they can have some farm animals, just basic things like chickens, maybe a couple of pigs, something where kids can gravitate towards a fun,
productive activity.
Exactly, yeah. Because, as you police, and I'm sure Walton County's not, I don't police in Walton County, but you find a lot of kids that gravitate towards these drug houses. That's what we find. So kids that went to school with my kids that were already on, their second meth charges. So I wanted to do something different even back then. I recognized that. Then I did help the district attorney I was practicing in Dothan. He asked me to help. I said, sure. And then the sheriff in Houston County as well asked me to help. So I did help, those political folks get in place, but I didn't run myself or anything. I've been busy. Parenting is a full-time job. If you want to try to keep these kids off the streets and off, you have to be very involved.
Tell me about it.
Very involved. Yeah.
No, I agree, and I think being a parent and being a good parent specifically is one of the most important things you can give back to your fellow man.
Absolutely, yeah.
You have kids. How?
4 kids, and 3 of them are in college now. So that's and I took a break from practice, and so that's when something. It was almost like by design, because I had no intentions on running. It was more by design. All of a sudden, I felt like I needed to run, and there were a couple of things that coinkydinks, that happened, and all of a sudden I'm in the race.
But customary use was probably the topic that got your
attention.
That
and the taxes being really high, and then I found out that the collections and taxes over the last 2 years, they increased by 52%, but our taxes didn't diminish one bit. So that kind of bothered me, and I thought
our tax rate didn't diminish, but
the tax rate didn't diminish, but our taxes collections
way up
went up immensely
because of appreciation of real estate values.
Yeah, and the sales and everything. So that didn't make sense to me. I mean, property, and it wasn't. I can afford. I'm in a good place. It wasn't so much for me, but I thought, what about these folks that are 65? They're retired. They're on small incomes or Social Security or whatever the case is. And as a county, we're not really taking care of those folks that should have a diminishment. Well, really, everyone should have a diminishment in their taxes, especially if we're a rich county and we're collecting an extra 52% in tax revenue.
What would you say, just to play devil's advocate,
sure.
What would you say to the people who, when you bring up some of these needs, were you listening to the chatter around the 1 cent sales tax a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I did hear about that.
Yep. And whether you were for it or against it, some information came out at that period of time about the type of shovel-ready projects that were on the board that could, were approved, could be funded, and then a series of projects that would need to be in place to keep up with the continued growth. And I believe the budget for those projects was immediately somewhere, and every year subsequent to that, somewhere around $90 million. So, basically what planning has said is that we need $90 million a year to fund these projects that we've already grown to a level of needing.
That's right.
And what you hear from our leadership is that, well, we just don't have that money. The money is not available for a variety of reasons. We collect something like $300 million a year in taxes, or that's what our budget is. I believe 60% of it goes to emergency work, or sheriff, first responders, fire, that sort of thing. And then we've got another 40% that we can use. And a lot of that is dictated by the state budget. We have to use it for certain areas. You've got TDC money that, a portion of it has to be used for marketing, and then it is available if it supports tourism and that sort of thing. But, the statement is that we don't have the money to fund some of these projects. So, again, your position is that taxes are too high and need to be diminished. What would you say to people who say, Well, yeah, that's a nice thought, but how are we going to fund these projects that we all say we're going to need?
So, common sense, at least my understanding of it, because again, I don't have political experience, but I know that things can be done. I know that if we have an agenda, if we have passion and intensity, we can create whatever we need to create in Walton County. Anyone that got elected probably didn't have, political experience. They just got in there. And I think sometimes we become a little complacent, and we do need to have that passion and intensity there to create, because there's always a way, right? So for example, the big thing that I think there should be a huge push towards those grants. I mean, that's where the biggest funds can come from, is the state and federal, grants. So that should be number one. Now, I've seen cases where, I guess Okaloosa, they're charging to go across that bridge where, if we raise the 1% tax, we could avoid that nonsense and get some things done. So, I mean, obviously sometimes you can have an increase in taxation for specific objectives and goals. And then we can, once those objectives and goals are met, perhaps we can go back and diminish the taxes back to its original state. So it doesn't have to be permanent, because a lot of times, for example, the tax on commercial rental property, DeSantis lowered that from 7% to 2% recently across the state. So that's a commitment to help businesses in Florida, because you have the lease payment, $4,000, let's say. On top of that, you have an extra 7% tax that you have to pay on something you lease. So there are some exorbitant fees, and again, we don't know exactly and how these money are distributed, and there are some things that we can do on a state level to try to address perhaps how this money is even distributed. Because if collectively if all counties come together and start looking at these structures and where this money is going, perhaps there may be some avenues to redirect some of the money locally instead of to the state. So I imagine that there has to be a way. I mean, if we can reduce that commercial tax rate from 7% to 2% and help small businesses, again, that creates more growth. There has to be a way for things to be done. There has to be a way for us to get our beaches back. There has to be a way for us to fix the infrastructure. But, I think the intense pursuit of those things is probably my best advice. Yeah.
And so, what do you think's a couple of characteristics that make you right for the job?
That's the problem. I'm too driven. Yeah, I'm too driven, and I think you need that. I think, like I said, sometimes we get a little complacent in any position that we hold for a while, and it's good. Someone said that running for office is the most American thing we can do, and I think that is absolutely right. I encourage everyone. As long as the things are being done and things are being accomplished, I kind of gravitated towards this thing by design. It wasn't something that I want to be a county commissioner. It just kind of happened. There were several things that guided me to be here today. So passion, yeah, desire, intensity, and capable. I mean, I ran people think it's easy running multiple practices. No, it's a huge task dealing with insurance companies and staffing and hiring other doctors and keeping other doctors, happy and in place. And running multiple facilities is not easy. So you have to have some kind of strength to run any business. To be in business, you have to have, some capacity, some strength. I mean, to be an employee is probably a little easier, but as as a broker, you have to shake some things in order to make things happen. And that's what I would bring to Walton County. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The campaign's been underway for a little while now.
Very short while. Yeah.
How's it going for you? Is it?
Initially, because I started from scratch, it's a slow start because you have to establish even the basic things. But yeah, it's coming.
Do you have any campaign staff who are helping you?
I have a couple of people that have volunteered to help, and an IT fellow that's helping kind of put together some of the graphics and signs and postcards and things like that apparently we need to market to even. I was not aware just how much you actually need to raise funds to run for office. You think you just go and talk to people, shake hands, but you actually have to reach a lot of folks, and you have to send a lot of cards. I'm learning a lot as well.
What do you think about the process so far? Is it controversial? Do you hear a lot of
Well, I think obviously there is
speaking?
I think obviously there's a little bit of bickering, but my stance is let's focus on solutions. Let's not get distracted by that stuff, the nonsense. Let's just stay focused on solutions. I know, apparently that's just the nature of politics. People.
I think you're right. I don't think it's unique here.
It's not.
There's a loud sort
of. But I'll tell you what. I have met some of the. I mean, I'm sure it's not unique to Walton County, but just folks are generally really nice. Yeah, they're just good people. They just want the best quality of life, and that's the things that we try to achieve as county commissioners, or even like yourself involved in this. You're trying to help, trying to make it better. Yeah.
Another issue that gets raised quite some time, it falls under the umbrella of infrastructure, but is, congestions on the roads, public transportation, parking.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific ideas on how to, handle those sort of challenges?
Yeah, so I have some thoughts. And again, what I want to do is I want to look at the research and see what has been demonstrated to be the most effective approach. Because it's not so much what I want, it's what the research shows is effective. So that's what I want to look at, and that's what I, intend on obviously using the aid for, and bringing research, bringing these things to the agendas, to the meetings, and incorporating these, concepts that are research-based that we know work in other countries or other communities or other counties. Yeah. It has to be based on research. It can't be about what I want or what, Joe wants. It has to be based on, stats, something that we know works already. Yeah. And obviously, there are some things we're going to have to create some new paths, to divert some of this traffic. I mean,
would you be in favor of installing new roads, specifically the north to south?
It's not so much that I'm in favor of it, because anytime you compromise eco environments and things, so it's not something, but it's something that has to happen. Yeah, those things have to happen. And one of the things that obviously I'm a bit of a tree hugger. But I want to be environmentally conscious at the same time, respecting people wanting to develop their properties. But I think there are some things that we can do, because currently we're just disseminating, like a nuclear bomb went off anytime that there's a large development. And I would sure like to see, some conservation in that process. I mean, man, I post a lot about shade trees. I mean, really every road should have shade trees that comply with either, if there is electric overhead, or if it's on the ground, some kind of shade trees to create these canopies throughout Walton County, especially like 30A and new communities, new developments. They should have shade trees, and for parking and for pets, so the asphalt doesn't burn their little paws, and just overall cools the temperature, sometimes up to 37 degrees. So there are some things that are just common sense that we need to apply in Walton County, that sometimes we have. I mean, I'm sure that there's some things in place, and I know there are a few folks fighting for those things, but just bringing more awareness and trying to instill some things to preserve the environment as we develop it. Yeah. Yeah,
I think that's important too.
Yeah, it's extremely important. I mean, that's sad. I get sad when I see just entire, like I said, it's like a nuclear bomb. Everything's just radically, no buffers, no nothing, and then they put 3 palm trees up, and it's like, wow.
That aren't even from here. Yeah. They're imported.
Yeah.
Well,
what's not from here is even the developers are not from here, which again, we want development, but maybe we can try to create some incentives for local developers, and maybe they'll be more conscious because they live here, Who knows?
So just for fun,
Sure.
For fun, do you believe in UFOs?
And
by the way, I know there's at least one person cringing out there that I even bring up this topic, because
who's that?
Well, just a friend of mine. I like to embarrass whenever we're out in public. I just strike up the UFO conversation.
I've seen. I saw something that was very unique back when I was in St. Pete. That mesmerized me back then with what it did. Its aerial dynamics and things. And a friend of mine was driving on 79, and he was very, verbose about something very large and very floaty. And,
okay. So UFOs have been here. Is that what we're?
Hell if I know.
You know, what's really interesting to me is that it's in the public conversation by serious people.
You know, actually, especially I guess there was a meeting that Matt Gaetz went to, and some of the new. So based on some of the disclosures, I would probably guess that they are UFOs, just based on some of the new things that have come out in Congress that some people are not privy to. They are disclosing a lot of things right now.
Well, one thing's true. There either is or there isn't.
Yeah.
You know, and if there isn't, I think that the idea that there's some sort of movement to talk about this thing in a serious manner is just as fascinating as if we are being visited.
Well, hopefully it's not something we have to contend with as a county at the county commissioner meetings.
Yeah. Well, exactly right. You're not going to be able to protect us from UFOs.
Fringe. That's right. New policies. We may need some new policies in that case. Yeah.
But well, hey, listen, I really appreciate you sitting down with me and taking a moment to let me get to know you since you're running for office. And I disagree or agree with politics. I always admire people who are willing to throw their hat in the ring. And like you said, running for political office is one of the most American things you can do. I totally agree. And I appreciate your time.
A friend of mine said that. Yeah, it's very wise.
Yes, sir.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
I think there comes a time in most people's lives where they're not looking within themselves. They're looking to serve the whole. And that altruistic thing, I think it exudes from us at some point. Once the kids are grown, then you want to be of service, to the world, to the community or something. So I think not everyone, but I think some people gravitate towards this decision to make a difference in the world.
For the love of service?
The love of service, actually. Serving others. Yeah. And
I hate to be this cynical.
Sure.
But I have a cynical point of view. And I get
I've become more cynical about some things myself. Go ahead.
Well, I get the sentiment, right? You want people who are in the role because they have a passion for service.
Absolutely. And, I think that's the only way. There should be a freaking...
Why don't we want the guy who has plenty of options, but because we pay him so well,
But it's not about pay. At this point, once, again, the first 20 years as an adult, you're growing your family, your finances and things like that. So at this point in your life, hopefully you're not looking for a job. You actually want to serve. Yeah, like I said, that altruistic nature that comes over us. I mean, it happened for me many years ago. Actually, I just couldn't commit the time to it. You recognize it, and hopefully a lot more people are. Hopefully, the people that are in place, they're not here to bicker. We're here to get some things done, and we're here because we have that sense, desire, and need to serve. It's not about. At this point, hopefully it's, for most people, it should not be about the money. Yeah.
Oh man, I want someone.
Or the power.
I want someone
That's another
who's
thing.
all about the money. I want someone.
We need those. We need those physical.
Who could work for a Fortune 500 company, being a hotshot CEO, but because we pay him $300,000 a year, he's willing to come do this thankless job. I want the cream of the crop,
I think the cream of the crop are those people that are altruistic and come to serve, because ultimately, we're intelligent folks. I mean, I think most people that are running for office, they probably have some social standing and a desire, and you couple that with that desire to serve, and you can make a huge difference. Obviously, not everyone is that. I mean, some people gravitate towards these things for different reasons, obviously, but hopefully more people gravitate towards these positions for that purpose, to serve. Yeah, that's important. That's extremely important.
Well, I look at these, lifetime congressional members who are making, I don't know what a congressperson makes,
and that's where the complaciveness.
$175,000 a year, and they're worth, tens of millions of dollars. They're getting paid anyways. Why can't we just make it out in the public? Do you think that the county commissioner position makes enough money, or would you advocate?
Again, at this point, it shouldn't be about money. I think you can bring enough. You're just not going to give me on that one, are you? No, I don't think it should be about the money. I think at this point, when you want to serve, it should not be about the money. I mean, obviously, that little stipend is okay, but I don't think we need to recruit these high-profile folks, because it's if you care and you get involved, you're going to do a better job serving than if you pay someone $3 million for that position to do that position. If you care and you're involved, I think that's the key. Yeah, wanting to make it better, because there are ways to make things better. We know that. We know that we can develop in a conservative way. We can create infrastructure in a better way. We know. I mean, there's research out there. There's enough information out there to do things the right way. We know that. Yeah, you don't have to be a genius. Anyone can a high school graduate. I mean, we have many high school graduates that are on the commission now. So, that's a testament that maybe they are doing, some things right. Maybe some things we need to improve on. But yeah, I commend anyone that wants to serve genuinely, not because you want to,
enrich yourself financially.
Yeah. Well, it's not even about that. Sometimes it's more about the ego, position, power, things like that. Standing in a community, yeah, I'm the commissioner. It has to be about service. Yeah. And I know it's rare. It's probably more rare than I think. Like I said, I've become a little more cynical because I used to think that everyone was good, but I think now we find that, and I still think that generally people are good, but some people, they don't have the same reasons. Yeah. Sadly, that's sad. When you get in these positions where you can make a difference in people's lives, it's like law enforcement. When you get in a position like that where you have the power to make someone's day or ruin their day, then this is one of the things that I thought this is what I was going to pursue, is working with the state in some manner to create a federal database where you get rid of officers that create problems, because those few bad officers, they create a bad name for old officers and put them at risk. So even the local municipalities, the local police departments, they should completely eliminate any obnoxious, rude, power-hungry police officers that, or that violate constitutional rights. They should be eliminated immediately, because they affect the rapport that the police department has with the community. And that's another thing, man, I got to talk on this too. Proactive versus reactive. Unfortunately, even in the police departments, we're reactive instead of proactive. If we get involved in the community, if we get involved with the kids, instead of just patrolling and I'm not a fan of, it's almost like a mild form of harassment, stopping people for little bitty nuanced things. And yes, you may, find a drug bust in the process, but if we can be involved in the community, interact with the more with the schools, even the police officers in the schools, they should be going from class to class every day, 10 minutes, talking about this and that. And again, proactive steps with the kids after school, proactive step in the community, get involved with the community so you have the rapport and the respect with the community, instead of just the nuance trying to, cite citations and things like that. And patrolling solely around, we should get involved in the community, interact with the folks. I'm a huge fan of proactive, because I think we're going to get much better results over a course of 10 years of proactive involvement in the community. Yeah. Same thing with the kids. If we want to keep them out of drug houses and diminish the drug rates and the meth houses and all the crap that's going on, oh man, the pills right now and all that stuff, it's crazy how many people are dying, Yeah. So, we have some losses right here in Walton County. So, yeah, so if we're proactive, we can do a lot better as a county, as a community, as a nation. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Dr. Edmond, I really appreciate your time. And there you have it, folks. What's the big idea with Dr. Edmond running for District 5 Board of County Commissioners? He'd love your consideration.
Appreciate it, Bo.
All right, man.
Thanks, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.